what advice would you give to students, and maybe they're interested in a career in electronic design automation or semiconductors? What kind of advice would you give for courses they would take, or just kind of how do you get into the industry?
Okay, so one of the key things for if you want to get into EDA, one key thing is it's important to have some of the design background, the digital design background, but another key is really you also need to make sure for EDA also have a strong programming or computer science background. So the reason why is that our designs that we're working on, they're each problem, even at the block level, we're working on 5 million gates. It's incredibly complex for how to resolve it. So, we do have, customers which are running the designs and like they take 2 weeks to run. If somebody has 2 weeks to run, they don't, you can't get the results back. So it is very important that we have to be efficient. So that's the reason why it is important to understand, focus on the algorithms classes and understand what is software. This is really where, and honestly, what you're going to see in terms of software is key everywhere. Even I think if you go into straight digital design, understanding how that works is important. So I would also focus on software classes. I would, especially algorithms, data structures classes. Also, in terms of anything for digital design, even take a specialty. Right, things are transferable as well, but to be able to go into depths, I would also suggest internships are a very good way of learning about the industry, as well as getting some experience and finding out is this what you want? Is this a group? What can you do here? And we have Cadence has a lot of internships. So for design, I'd suggest to work on the different design classes, electrical engineering classes. We do see everything is converging. So I think some of the having some broad understanding is also important. We don't necessarily do a rotational program, but every year we will have the ability to have interns in various different groups. So you basically were presented with a lot of options. You'll see all of the intern possibilities are there. So you can either, when you're there, say, okay, I'm interested in this other group, and tell the person, and then you can move over. But you don't necessarily have to stay. You have the option of coming back to the same one, the option of going to a different one. So it's really kind of just open. We don't call it rotation, it's more kind of flexible. But Cadence is actually extremely flexible. I think that's what you could say about. There's no set rules, but there's a lot of flexibility to be able to make things happen.
Christian asked an email, but then he also just said he had a question. I don't know if you wanted to ask it.
Yeah. So I was just wondering on how Cadence like interacts with other companies. So say I'm like a designer a chip designer at a major silicon company like Samsung or something like that. How would I interact with Cadence to get my design optimized and try to reduce the power as much as possible? Would I use a set of software solutions that you guys have, or would I be working alongside design engineers? How exactly do you guys work with other companies?
Okay, so all of the design engineers use our software to develop their tools. So, in order to create a design, you can't create it by hand. You have to use our tools. So you would be using our tools pretty much all the way through to be able to design your tool, design your any semiconductor. You would use the tools. If you have questions are needed, there's actually a whole level of support engineers, which we have, which works closely with the customers and those pieces. We do, provide trainings for how to use the tools. If you have issues, we'll have the support people come out. If you want to have help and how to better optimize it, we have optimization. How we do it is make sure that we have, there's articles, training programs online. And then also we do, I work very closely with multiple customers. I actually have a badge at one of the key ones in this area because I go there well, I used to go there so frequently before COVID. So we will work with some of the key leaders there for if they have, some of the advanced things about what do you need to do to get to the next level, or, key issues. So that's kind of how we generally work with them. Does Cadence employ PhDs? Yes, very much. Honestly, in terms of, because of the algorithmic nature of it, we typically do employ mostly PhD or master's degree students. It's primarily.
So a lot of your hires are at the graduate level.
Most of them at the graduate level.
Interesting.
We do employ some undergrad, but most are, I think, at the graduate level, and that's because of the fact that you go into depth. Even when I started off, I started in a bachelor's degree, but that's the reason why I actually went back and did my master's degree at Stanford, is because there's a lot of information that you would need. And I think in an undergrad, you get a base level. But I think in order to, get to the next level, there's
but it sounds like you said that you can continue your education at Cadence. So you hire bachelor students and then let them continue their education?
So occasionally, so honestly, it depends on the role. Depending on, for a lot of the ones, it kind of depends on the person and the role in terms of what we hire. I'd say we do primarily hire at the graduate level first. We do sometimes, depending on the group and the role, do hire some at the undergrad level as well.